Good evening, everyone. Terry V. Salyer here, the V-Man, and we're coming to you tonight right here from McGoffin County Health Department like we do every night and things. We got some great things for you tonight. We got some people that's coming up that I want to speak with you about. Representative John Bland's going to come. I think he's going to come around the 30th of this month here in April, which will be next week. And then we got our sheriff here in McGoffin County, Bill Meade. He's going to come around and he'll be here. So look forward to seeing Bill. And also we've got a lot of other people. Zach Hall, there's a gentleman that's running for representative down in Perry County and Knott County and all through that area and stuff. So we're going to have him come and share some of the things. But looking forward to John being here. He's going to share some things about the legislature and how that impacts us and what's happening in our area and how we can get involved and do some things there. So we really appreciate you all tuning in tonight. You can see that my cohort in crime, my co-host here, Cody's got some personal things tonight, and we ask for your prayers in his situation or what's going on there. And because that's the biggest part of what we're trying to do is we, the people of Eastern Kentucky, have a concern for our people. We've been through a lot of things in the last couple of years, and particularly that have divided a lot of things. And some of those things we're going to talk about tonight and get into those. But right now, just want to thank you. Hang in there. We, the people of Eastern Kentucky, try to address three aspects on everything we do. Number one is economic development. And in a couple of weeks, we'll be coming to you from the fiscal court up here in Salyersville here for McGoffin County. We're going to have Judge Matt Wireman will be up there, and he's going to share some things. And I think you'll be excited about some of the programming and economic development, things like that, that's coming to McGoffin County in the near future and things. So we want you to be able to get that and do that in particular. Also, we got some other people coming. I think I mentioned Sheriff Bill Meade's going to come and share a little bit about the Sheriff's Department and things that's going on there. And so we'll have some great things from him. Any organization you got, we had a group of ladies that they're kicking off an opportunity here. CASA is the name of their organization, and they work with the court systems in about 7 counties in our area. We're going to have them back in June here, probably the second or third week or something. And they're coming into McGoffin County that's going to be able to help, some of our families and things here and of abused children, things of that nature. They're very involved with that, and they're very excited about being a part of that work here, and we are excited about them as well. A lot of great things going on. A lot of things happening on the sports level, I guess you could say. We got us a new coach there. Mr. Mark Pope has come in, and he's got a bunch of hires and things right now for his coaching staff. And we're looking forward to meeting these guys. And then also with the offense that he was talking about of being so active and shooting the threes, and he made a comment, I think, in his opening press conference that he was their team at BYU was the number 2 shooting 3-point crew in the nation. So I think that goes along for a lot of great things to come, on the basketball court down there at Rupp. I'm looking forward. It'd be a lot of excitement. A lot of balls going to go up from the 3-point area, and he's kind of committed to that. So I'm looking forward to what he has to do. But tonight, just want to take a few minutes and talk about situations. Like I said, we look at economic development, community involvement, and we also look for political impact. And tonight, there's some things on my heart that I want to share with you all. And I think it's all three of these factors that we're trying to bring to you from We the People of Eastern Kentucky with our guests, with some of the topics. And as you know, the 4th week of a month We have you asked for it, and it's an opportunity for you to go to our website and go to Facebook and things of that nature of telling us what you'd like for us to discuss and things. But I'm really concerned. And tonight I may talk a little bit about what I call mamaw and papaw politics. And it's a situation to where in the past, I grew up in Eastern Kentucky. I was a good old Kentucky boy and spent a lot of time with my grandparents and things here in Eastern Kentucky. And one of the two questions that everybody asks you when you meet new people or you're going to a particular different group is, who's your daddy and where are you from? So I'm going to kind of address those questions tonight and get into a little bit of the nitty gritty about things. And I think the situation that we're facing here in Eastern Kentucky, particularly in the last 10 to 15 years, and it's a concern of mine. A lot of us like to recollect back to the good old mamaw papaw days, as I call them, your grandparents, and the times where families would come together. You know, every time we had a meeting on Sunday, and after church we'd go to mamaw or papaw's house, and we'd have a big dinner and all that kind of stuff. So it's a situation to where family was really important. There was a lot of emphasis on that, of us staying together, and that's something that's so big for us here in Eastern Kentucky is the ability of the families. And I think in our world of technology, a lot of times, and I'm a tech guy as well, but a lot of times we get into situations to where we have distractions and we have things that's coming into our life. We live a busy life. You know, we work a lot and we like to spend time with our families, maybe not as much. Sometimes work takes away from it. But in the last 10 years, I've kind of seen a drifting apart and in a different direction of families. And you know, that concerns me. Because like I said, we always look forward to the special times like Thanksgiving and Christmas and Easter and all those, but those Sunday afternoon dinners and things with family together and talk about what was happening in each one's life was a great thing to go through. And I think we've got away from that, folks. It even extended to the extent of neighbors. I remember in my life, I grew up in some cities for a period of time in my life, and some people didn't even know who your neighbor was. So I know it was very customary around Eastern Kentucky and all of us and the heritage that we had. We would go out there and we knew our neighbors, you know, and if someone was sick or someone had a death in the family, we went over and took them food to eat, you know, that night for dinner and took care of them and asked them if they needed anything else, if there was anything else that we could help them with in the situation that they were in. There was a camaraderie there, you know, everybody kind of worked together, and that was part of our heritage, that we helped each other out. And it was something that I think we were taught from our grandparents, our mamaws and our papaws, to be able to show the importance and how, you know, family and things are very important to us. And I think in a way we've drifted a little bit away from that too. We got sidetracked. I remember the days that if somebody was getting the crops in and doing some hay or planting tobacco or hanging tobacco up in the barn, you know, everybody in the neighborhood helped you out do that. You know, in a lot of situations we were trying to get the old hay in before the rain hit and all that kind of stuff, because we knew we didn't want it laying out in the field and things. But some good old times, you know, hard working times, and I enjoyed that, you know. And you know, today we're in such a fast-paced society, and what I do with my company, I try to help businesses as a business coach and also a consultant and things, stuff that I've been through. So we get distracted and we don't think about the things that we were experiencing or going through before, and we get away from that. We get away from the good times, and it's always so good. You talk to a lot of people at maybe a family funeral or something, and you haven't seen somebody in 5 to 10 years, and you get you a time to be caught up. But what's so good is to sit around that food and everybody kind of fellowship together and saying, "Hey, what's happening in your life?" And that's important. It's important what's happening in your neighbor's life. If they had a barn burned down or need to put up a barn or this and that, to be able to get the tobacco up, or the hay or whatever, then everybody picked the tools up, went over and did it. And that's a thing today, I think, we've gotten away from as well. It's kind of a situation in society that I call it kind of the me syndrome, and it's a situation to where we become focused on ourselves and inwardly rather than outwardly and into our neighbors and things. And to me, growing up, you know, uh, that's not Eastern Kentucky. Our heritage is helping people, it's being there for people, it's pulling together, and it's not pulling apart. And a lot of that has to do, I think, with the political situation, that we have. And it even has got us here in Eastern Kentucky. A lot of people believe in parties, and uh, you're either this side on an issue and I'm on the other side, and immediately there's a line drawn in between people, and a lot of things and voting. And I remember the days that I looked at the person that was representing us, and that was what I was taught, and that was what I was tailored to. It wasn't necessarily a Democrat or a Republican. It was voting for the best person that you felt that would represent you. And I think one of the things we've gotten away from a lot too, and I kind of call it the old Carl Perkins syndrome. And a lot of you out there, as old as me, know who Carl was and what he meant to Eastern Kentucky. And some of you young people right now probably don't know that, but that gives you an opportunity to go out there and research a little history, and you'll find out what kind of man that Carl Perkins was. And him and people like Eula Hall up there, down in Mud Fork and Creek and up there, we wouldn't have the health care today in a lot of situations had they not fought for people and knew that there was a need for that, particularly here in Eastern Kentucky. And had a great opportunity, I guess about a year ago or so. I was working on documentaries for people, and everybody said, well, there's one big person in Eastern Kentucky that you need to talk to. And I said, well, who is that? And they said, well, you got to speak with Eula Hall. And had the opportunity before she died to go down there and spend about an hour and a half with her, and I think her son's name's Matthew. Just great people. We actually just sit there on the front porch at the house, and we just talked. And I wanted to tell her story a little bit, and I'll probably down the road, I'm doing some things with that as far as the documentary that we'll be able to work with. But she was an unbelievable lady. Very at a young age, was a midwife person, went out there and believed in helping people and going to try to, take care of people, going the extra mile, much like what I've described a moment ago, that Mamaw Papaw type mentality in the politics and things. She didn't care about politics. She was just out there to try to get somebody to be able to help them and to get some services, particularly in healthcare, like she strived for and what she looked for, was a really benefit to us. And in the future, I want to share a little bit about her and what she meant to us. But she's kind of one of those hometown heroes, and had a great opportunity to talk with Ruth Conley one time about the gentleman that started Foothills. And we were talking about history and things and about some of the heroes that we had. And she was sharing the opportunity. The way the Foothills was started was a gentleman on the back of a horse. And he was going around and he realized that, yeah, we had phones and telephones and things of that nature, communication, in some of the cities like Paintsville and Pikeville and places like that. But we didn't have it in the rural areas. And I'm so thankful that he had the foresight to be able to look into that there, and went around from house to house and signed people up and got them interested in, would you like to have phone service and things up your area, and really developed that up to what Foothills is today. It's a great company, and Ruth does a great job up there. And they have spread now, I think, and bought a couple other entities down Louisa Way and a couple other phone companies in the area. So Foothills has really expanded out, tremendously, and been very, very benefit for our communities and everybody here in Eastern Kentucky. I hope that one day I'll get to be able to have Ruth on the podcast and share a little bit about maybe the history of Foothills and the way that things have come about. But these are some of the heroes. I had the opportunity to work with a gentleman, not too long ago, a couple years back, John Preston down at Louisa, Kentucky. Had always wanted to have a production or something about John C.C. Mayo. I know that there was a good book written, and we'll talk about that a little bit more, and maybe even share the book with you about his life. John C.C. Mayo was one of the early heroes, really, of Eastern Kentucky, and he was the one that was a teacher and got into realizing that timber was such a big thing in the beginning here in Eastern Kentucky, and it's still a big part of our economy of what it is. But what happened was we were able to discover coal, and a lot of people were hauling timber and things out by old wagons. And I know my papaw was one that used to do that at 9 years old. He and his dad had a wagon, and they would go up and they would haul timber and all that kind of stuff, and people would be able to contract them to do it. So it was a great time there. But John C.C. found out that there was a lot of coal seams here, and he also had enough insight that guys like Rockefeller and Carnegie and some of these other guys that he dealt with during that particular time of history were very intellectually minded guys, very well studied, Harvard guys, things of that nature. But John was a very knowledgeable and very smart guy, and he saw that there was an opportunity to be able to bring economic growth and things in here to Eastern Kentucky. So what he did was go around and ask people about the mineral rights, their property and things, and explain to them there's an opportunity, and a lot of them were in impoverished areas here in Eastern Kentucky. But he went to them and said, there may be an opportunity to where I can get you some money for the coal seams and things that are right here on your property. And what he did was he signed them up to be able to accumulate mineral rights, which he turned around and sold to the steel mills in Chicago and up in Pittsburgh and all that. But there was a problem there too. And Mayo says, how are we going to get it there? Because back then all they did was they had the flatboats that went along Big Sandy over here, and all the way up to Gatlinburg and Ashland and things. And then sometimes some of them made it on some rail cars there, or barges or whatever, that went on up into close to the Mississippi and on out and to the northwest to be able to provide coal, which was an energy producer for not only steel, but a lot of times people used to heat their homes and things with coal. And I remember the old coal fire stove that my papaw had. We did it, I would say, probably close to the 1970s, to where he always had a coal fire stove there in case the electric went out or something happened or whatever. But we were blessed here in Eastern Kentucky to have guys like John C.C. Mayo. He says, we got to get a railroad down here. So he was very instrumental in getting the railroads and all those coming down into Eastern Kentucky. And not only did it open the avenue up for us to be able to be in the coal business and to thrive like we did, but it opened up transportation avenues to people from Eastern Kentucky could go to Lexington, they could go to Ashland, and a lot of them are going at the time through Cumberland Gap down south, where Harlan County and Letcher County and all down through there. Even up in Pike County, there's a lot of migration and people that went that direction. I know we needed a lot of people to come and mine in the coal. So at the time, a lot of people from Europe and immigrants came in here to Eastern Kentucky. A lot of them were Irish people, but there were a lot of descents. And that's the thing that makes us great, folks. Everybody wants to harp and gripe about immigration right now, but our country was founded with immigrants. In the beginning, and that's a topic that we'll talk about a little bit later on, and that's Christian nationalism. A lot of people are thinking that, we were founded on Christianity, Christian principles and things like that. I myself, I've been a Christian now for over 55 years. I'm born again Christian and love the Lord, and He's been so good to me and blessed me through a lot of things in my lifetime. But the main thing we got to look at is the founding fathers in our country came here for religious freedom. And Christian nationalism is a situation where it draws the lines between people, much like the political ramifications of you're a Democrat or you're a Republican, and those are things that divide our country, and we need to get away from that. We need to come together. We need to work together. We need to respect each other, and reason and a purpose and a cause. Even in Proverbs, it speaks about that. So there's a reason that each and every person that we have out there comes into this world. And another factor, just to show the influence, and from the spiritual standpoint, um, he's in charge of when he's going to take you out. And I found this out as a young boy. One of my grandfathers was very ill, and he had hardening of the arteries, and we knew that his time was short, and all the family was called in. And gang, we take for granted so many things in our life. And as I was watching Papaw there, I realized that he took his last breath and there wasn't any more breath. I realized the power of God in his life, about he had the ability to give and the ability to take away. And then I found out that power also in life is when I had the birth of my son, Tyler. And I was in the room there, and there was a little bit of difficulty in his delivery and things, so we had to do a C-section and all that kind of deal. But the amazing thing that I want you all to understand is there were 6 people in that room. And then all of a sudden, there was a 7th person. There was a miracle. Life was created right before my eyes. I saw how God breathed the breath of life into his body, and how he's the one that not only does he give, but he has the time to take it away. So we're not all guaranteed about that. Well, I'm not trying to frighten you tonight or anything, but I'm just trying to say that don't take for granted those blessings that we have. There's a lot of other people, and it's very important to know and understand who gives that life and who takes it away. And that's my stance. I'm a pro-life person, but there comes into a situation to where I feel I'm a First Amendment person as well. And what does that mean, Terry? Well, you got freedom of speech and this and that, the press and all that, and that's important. But more importantly than anything else is morality. And even on that stance, of abortion and this and that people look at in pro-life, which is going to be a big topic, you all. It's going to be a big topic right now in this presidential election coming up. I just don't feel that we have the right to pass laws that's going to be demanding, that's going to be, this is the way it is, open your mouth up. I don't feel that we should be making decisions for other people in their life. Now they say, well, Terry, how can you possibly do that? Well, the point is, we all know what a life is, particularly now when you get old like me. It's a journey. And through your life, you have different moments that happen to you in your life, and things that causes a negative feeling, that causes a positive feeling, even sometimes a neutral feeling. I could care less, about it. But the most important thing is, I don't feel that we as a person should try to dogmatically force our belief system on somebody else by the way of making laws. It's that person's right to be able to do what they want to do with their life. And when we get into the point of where we want to dictate where someone is alive and someone isn't, this and that, to me that infringes on that First Amendment. Let me explain it this way. When I was in college, I've got a correction minor, and my major is political science, so I got to visit some of the minimum and maximum security prisons. And as we know, according to parties, some people believe in capital punishment and some do not. And particularly, the stance that's out there as far as the political party. Democrats don't believe in it. Republicans believe in it. Capital punishment, this and that. Well, this is a thing that concerns me. Everybody from the Republican side says they're pro-life through and through, and this and that, but I believe that there's exceptions to everything, and I think that's coming out a lot now in some of the policies that people are rewriting and talking about. But I got the opportunity to go to Eddyville, Kentucky, and down there it's the penitentiary. And as we walk through the grounds there and some of the wings and the wards, one of the places they took me was where the electric chair was, and which has now been outdated. And I think they do lethal injection if they do it at all. But I think in Kentucky, I believe it's life. So um, they said, "Here's these goggles. Try these goggles on." So I put the goggles on, and I looked around the chair there itself, and there's about 100, 150 bulbs, light bulbs there. And they said, you got to wear the goggles because it's going to be so bright. The way that they tested the chair was they flipped the switch and all these light bulbs come on. Well, I want to tell you, it was unbelievable the bright light that was in that room. It was amazing. So I asked one of the guards. I said, "You've probably seen some people." He was an older gentleman. He said, "Yeah, I've seen some executions." And he said, I said, "How could you flip the switch on anybody? How could you take the life of another person?" And his response was kind of interesting. He said, "Terry, you live with us there 2 weeks. You pull a switch on any of them." So, that kind of hit home to me. And I said, okay, well, let's look at this thing. God creates life. God takes away life. And we have a situation to where we may have a person that's been raped, a person that's been incest, a person that is a situation to where her life is life-threatening for the mother. And a wise old friend of mine, good Christian man, gave me an example that I've shared with people for many years. And that example was, tell me what you would do, Terry, if you were out in the middle of the ocean, in no land in sight, and it was you, your wife, and your 2 children. And then all of a sudden, there was a leak in the boat. And you realized that not everybody, because of the weight of people in that boat, were going to be able to survive. I said, that's a pretty tough question. And he said, well, I haven't got to the question yet. Who would you save? Would you save your children? Or would you save your wife? If you could only save one or the other. And I thought real hard about that. And I said, well, I'd probably end up drowning and trying to save everybody. And he said, no. The answer is you save your wife. And I said, really? Your own flesh and blood, your kids there, and stuff like that. And he said, well, this is where it's at. God gives you one wife. You love that wife. And God has blessed you both to be able to have children. And if he wants you to have more kids, he will bless you again. So you need to save your wife. And those things really kind of hit home to me from the Christian standpoint. If you're faced a morality issue and you're faced with things that happen. And I remember a time I was doing a concert in Alabama. And I was on probably a 2-week, I think, tour. I usually took about 3 or 4 of those a year because I used to sing contemporary gospel music really all over the country. And I went to Alabama down there for a couple weeks, and one of the last nights I was in town, I believe it was in Tuscaloosa, and I did a concert and things, and I was getting ready to do the offering for anybody to make a decision, profess of faith, or to give their life to the Lord and stuff. And this one girl made her way down to me, and she couldn't have been over 16 years old. And she said, "Terry, would you do me a favor?" And I said, "Yeah, what? Anything." And she said, "Would you pray with me?" And I said, "Absolutely. What do you want to pray about?" And as we were going down to our knees at that altar, I had the girl look up to me and she say, "Well, one of my best friends is 16 years old and she's pregnant. And tomorrow she's going to go to a clinic and have an abortion. And I don't know what to say to her." And it was amazing. It was almost like a vision that God gave me before I said anything or before we prayed about anything. I had a picture in my mind. And the picture was myself and the young lady walking through this room, through a door, and seated at a table at the other end of the room was Jesus. And Jesus asked her, "What can I do for you? What are you doing here today?" And she said, "Lord, you know my situation. You know what's going on, but I can't go through with this." So it was the first time in my life I was really hit with that issue myself. So I was wanting to hear what he had to say. And Jesus spoke to her and he said, "You know that that's sin. It's not right to take another life. That's been spilled out many times before. And that's what I would ask you. Please don't do that. Spare that life because my Father's created that." And then she said, "I know that, but I'm going to do it anyway." And then one of the most amazing things that I've ever heard in my life is what Jesus said to her. And he said, "Well, let me tell you what. You tell your friend that tomorrow that you will be there and you don't agree with what's happening, but you're going to support her and love her like a good Christian girl should do, even though you know that it's not correct and not right. But you will take my place because I would hold her hand to get her through that awful situation for the decision that she made in her life. And I would still love her no matter what." And I thought that was an interesting thing because I went back to my home church after I got done with touring and things, and I shared that story with the people of my church. And at the time, I was a member at a very small church in West Virginia. We had probably about 30 members, and I said, "God's laid it on my heart just to share that with you, tonight." And my pastor, which was a young guy at the time, I was probably in my 40s, 50s. He was in his 30s. He comes up to me and said, "I want to talk to you." And I said, "What is it?" And he said, "Do you realize that you were talking to that girl that was going to go to the clinic the next day?" And I said, "No, I didn't even realize that. I never even thought of that because she told me it was a friend of hers." He said, "No, you'll probably never see her again. But you gave her some insight that she'll remember that hopefully she'll make the right decision or did or whatever because I haven't talked to her. I haven't seen her again, all that. But it was put in God's hands." And folks, that's where we're at today. We're so easy to condemn people. We're so easy to jump on people's back. And what that does, sometimes it draws the line of people saying, well, I'm as good as you are. I see sin in your life and all that kind of stuff too. But if you can be a Christian, I can too.